This is a great opportunity that I like to take advantage of and get people exposed to not only adaptive sports, but, the VertaCat. It's life-changing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today I welcome Steve Doudt. Steve's life is full of accomplishments, from serving in the United States Air Force to everything he's accomplished in sports, from basketball, volleyball, even being a collegiate basketball official. But his life took a turn in 1992. One has led him to countless other accomplishments since then. We're going to learn about those accomplishments and a lot more, and plus what happened in 1992 with Steve. But first of all, Steve, thank you so much for being on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to educate others in some of the things that I've done and that I'm a part of. So, again, grateful for the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to learning more. I did a lot of reading about you, a lot of research, and there's so much to your story. Matter of fact, let's start with the segment I call In Your Own Words and have the listeners listen to the Steve Doudt story.
Well, sure. I was a typical kid, and 87. I had my somewhat direction. I had signed up, joined the military. Um, had a fantastic career going, many deployments all over the world. I ended up, being part of a special operations unit, and made some training skydives one particular day and got hit on my motorcycle on the way home. You know, I'd like to say, yes, it changed my life, certainly for the better. Most of the accomplishments that you had mentioned were after I had my injury, including actually almost 27 years of marriage, kids, grandkids. Um, Probably those are the most important, aside from some of the athletic accomplishments and just bringing some overall awareness to folks with, people with disabilities.
Yeah, in 1992, I read it as you jumped out of a plane and then you jumped on your motorcycle, and that's when the accident happened. Along those lines, I'm sure it's not that easy, but can you
Right.
take us through the time that happened and what was going through your mind?
Well, you know, you never expect that, and it's like they always say that most of the time it's not the rider's fault, and you can't watch out for everybody. But I distinctly remember, because I never lost consciousness during the accident or anything like that. I was distraught and heartbroken that I had let my team down in some form or fashion. And that really hurt me the most initially. And then obviously very lengthy hospital stay, upwards of 6 months, and few things happening during that. But yeah, I mean it's life changing and altering. But I always say, you know what? It takes a special person to pull yourself up out of situations like that. And you know, luckily for me, some of the training I've had probably contributed to me being alive.
When you think of back to 1992, and I know it's quite a few years ago, but talking about your journey and what got you through that, there's people that are listening to this that are in various stages of their own journey. What were some of the things that you remember that really kind of brought you back, and how long of a journey was that?
You know, it I look back on that initial hospitalization stage a lot like I did when I joined the military. You know, the unknown sometimes can be easily conquered because you don't know what you don't know. And, I look back on some of the training that I've had in the military, and I'm like, I don't know how I made through that stuff. I just, you see it on TV, you see it on shows, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I did it. And so I liken my the start of my rehab, if you want to say, um, a lot to that. I was, 900 miles away from family and really took it on by myself initially. And it was rough. And again, similar to previous experiences, I just did it. Just did it. So
And that
that,
makes a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, that's really it. I mean, even this day, I look back on both of those experiences and go, I don't know. It just happened.
Just happened and you got through it. I'll tell you, as you look back on those, I guess now 35 years roughly, or no, I guess it wouldn't be 35 years, 33 years, but
Right.
there is so much more. Things have changed within the limb loss community. What have you seen as far as some of the changes? Meaning, like when I was growing up, there's no amputee coalition, the prosthetics weren't as advanced, those types of things. What have you seen in your journey?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm similar to that. Um, I, things were rough, back in '92,
Yeah.
and I'm part of I'm part of the amputee coalition as far as a peer visitor program, and I do some stuff nationwide and I do some stuff locally. Um, Man, I did it all by myself.
Yeah.
Had to experience it all for the first time by myself. Nobody told me how to do this. Nobody told me where to go and what to do. And so I've always taken the approach that if I can meet with somebody and make their life a lot easier than what I had to do 30 plus years ago, then, that's kind of what I want to do. That's what I get, some comfort out of knowing that I can help somebody through a process that they're experiencing for the first time.
And you're a peer visitor, so you probably see the impact that the positive impact that has. What is that like when you talk to others that you didn't have the opportunity probably to talk to others because there wasn't a network necessarily? What does that mean for the people that are receiving your information?
Well, as you know, people always are in an initial stage of shock or depression. I mean, it's limb loss. I mean, it's a rough thing for a lot of people. But when you can bring somebody in and not necessarily talk at people, but to listen to what they may be asking, even kind of asking around the bush and just kind of, feeling you out. Well, when you can answer questions like, man, am I ever going to drive again? Absolutely. Well, what's that process like? And then it just starts a series of questions on, whatever topic you're addressing that now they have the information. They know somebody else can do things and has been there, done that, so to speak. And I mean, I wish I had had those, you know, resources back then, but, they just didn't exist.
Absolutely. And some of the things that you have done since then, like your wheelchair volleyball, I believe it is. Yeah, wheelchair basketball team, the sitting volleyball team, the wheelchair basketball official. How did that journey start for you? How did you start to find out that these things were, first of all, available and then get involved to the level that you are?
Right. I mean, again, so long ago, not really any internet information, nothing. So I got out of the hospital, got back to Indianapolis, and I did some pretty intense rehab for about a month or so. And I'm not one that sits around. I need something to do. And I answered an ad. This is funny, an ad in the newspaper
Really?
for a volleyball coach, a high school volleyball coach. I had limited experience. I played quite a bit of beach volleyball in my, military years when I was around. And so I mean, I grew up around it. So I had some experience. I showed up at a local high school, started coaching. Um, and that was a great time, and we had a lot of success. And one day I had, I'm dating myself, a message on my answering machine from somebody. Hey, we hear that you have some volleyball experience, and we'd like to know if you want to come to Chicago and try out for the U.S. sitting team. I have no clue how people got that information. Um, I had also started playing a little bit of wheelchair basketball then as well. Um, so I made a phone call. I went to Chicago. I believe it was, oh, I don't, May, June of 96, 95. I can't remember. It would have been 95. Um, Showed up, tried out, boom. I was the best thing since sliced bread. Made the team, traveled up there every couple weeks. Made the national team, went on to Atlanta Paralympics the first go around, and that's how the volleyball started. Basketball, um, I think I ran into somebody that said, "Hey, you should try basketball." Kind of the same thing. Showed up, started playing locally on a team, and um, But again, I didn't have anybody showing me, the ropes,
Yeah.
so to speak. Hey, now you can go to a rehab facility or a website and find resources that almost overwhelm you to a degree.
What was the Olympics like? I mean, that has to be a fantastic
Well,
experience.
yes, and so let me just quickly correct you. It's called the Paralympics.
Paralympics, yeah.
Yeah, Paralympics, and you know that. But
Yeah.
you know, I, I've served my country. It was an opportunity to do the same, represent my country, and all the fanfare and the parades and things that come along with it. I mean it, and being on our home soil in '96, it was incredible. I mean, just the atmosphere alone was. I mean, you'll never forget those experiences.
Yeah, that's got to be very heartwarming. I guess I make that mistake because I've been a part of the limb loss community before the Paralympics existed. So
Exactly.
yeah, so you got to that one's I'm glad it does. I'm very glad it does. Obviously, what is it like to officiate? I mean, you're on the other side. You're playing the sport. Now you're
Mhm.
officiating collegiate wheelchair basketball. What is that like?
Well, I had gotten to a point where I played for about 8, 9 years, pretty high level, um, getting close to some national championships here and there. We had a good team. Um, and I just thought, I want to do something a little different. And, made a couple phone calls to some coaches and, hey, I want to try and do this. And they're like, oh, well, great. We'd love to have, you know, somebody that uses a wheelchair come officiate wheelchair basketball games. Now, I wasn't the first. Um, probably the second, most known at that time. But I also started locally and was the first person in a wheelchair to officiate an Indiana high school basketball game. Well, I loved it. And, I did that for a couple years. But then what started to happen is the high demand of the wheelchair game. And I couldn't justify 2 nights a week somewhere locally and then every weekend. And so I decided, I thanked the people that got me involved, and I said, wheelchairs where it's at, you know. It's what I want to do. And so I started over at the University of Illinois, and within my second year, not just collegiate, but there's several divisions in the NWBA.
Hmm.
I was doing national level tournaments, Final Fours, and then the collegiate ranks really, I mean, I was traveling to Dallas, to Wisconsin, to Alabama, I mean, it was every weekend. And, and with that, I became good and in demand. And so, I mean, yeah, there were many years I was at the 115 to 120 game seasons.
Wow. And being an official, that is not easy, right? I mean,
No,
I guess it's one of those things. If you don't notice the official, it's a good thing. But if you're
yes.
noticed, yeah. What is
Well,
that like?
so the way that the collegiate division worked back when I was doing it, we pretty much had a really good core of about 10 to 12 officials that were the top officials in the country. The the college commissioners demanded that. They demanded the best. So they got the best. Well, out of those 10 or 12, six of us usually would travel to every location because that brought consistency to the game. They knew us, we knew them. I knew a lot of the players in the other divisions anyway because I had played, but it's just it's a different animal. The college division is just a different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beast, and I love the intensity of the players. I love the intensity of the coaches. And you do your job, and you're good at your job. Everything else takes care, of itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to break real quick for a new sponsor, but when we get back, I want to talk about what you're doing now, including a product that is so impressive that can help quite a bit of people enjoy a different sport that we haven't even talked about. So we'll do that in just a second. I'd like to welcome the newest sponsor to the We're Not Stumped podcast, and that's Discount Tire and America's Tire. And this one means a lot to me. I spent 30 years with that great organization. The first 5 years, I worked in the stores, changing tires and helping customers and actually representing the organization. And this comes from a person with limb loss. And we know within this community, within the limb loss, limb difference, and general disabled communities, sometimes the hardest thing we can do is get meaningful employment. Discount Tire gave me a chance. And after 5 years in the stores, I decided to re-educate myself. And that led to a 25-year career at their corporate office where I ran at different times digital marketing, their e-business department, and their customer experience. The great thing about Discount Tire is you can save time very easily by buying and booking online. You say you don't know too much about tires? They have a tool for you. It's called Treadwell. Treadwell is a tool that makes the tire buying experience for the customer so much more authentic because it's based on actual real-world test results. Mileage that their customers get on vehicles driving around their neighborhoods, blended with actual objective and subjective test driving data. Discount Tire has a great tagline, "Let's get you taken care of." And I can tell you from my personal experience, they mean everyone when they say "let's get you taken care of," including those within the limb loss, limb difference, and general disabled communities. Discount Tire, thank you so much for being a sponsor and helping amplify the voices of those that are on the We're Not Stumped podcast. And to everyone out there that's listening, please go support our newest sponsor. Steve, one of the sports that we haven't talked about is golf. And I know there's a product that you use that is making it maybe possible for others to start really enjoying the game of golf. So how did you start getting into golf? And I want to talk about the VertaCat in particular as well.
I retired from officiating, you know, almost 20 years of on the road from first to middle of October till, end of May, you know, and, I had kids that were getting older, moving on in their adult life, starting college, and I guess I can admit it now. I had selfishly done some things for myself and recognized that it's getting to the point where it's too much. It's time to stop. So I thought, what the heck am I going to do? Well, ironically enough, I stayed involved with the Veterans Games, and they asked me to officiate. Next thing you know, bought a set of golf clubs, went out, decided to see if I could even swing. Ended up getting involved with another program called PGA Hope, and taking advantage of some instruction. Next thing you know, I got PGA teachers telling me you need to go play someplace. I'm like, but I retired. I don't want to travel anymore. That's what. Well, okay. So for a few years, I did. I went and played, several tournaments, um, traveled. You know, I've got some top two, threes, a couple wins. But I just slowly scaled back. And then recently, I'm going to say it's the beginning of 2024, the new product called the VertaCat was released. Now I knew it was in beta testing, and I'd seen some prototypes, because I'm pretty good friends with the developer. Well, that thing showed up, and let me tell you what, that thing is a beast compared to the older models. We have more power, um, different batteries, system, more ground clearance. So the adjustability has been greatly improved. It would take somebody a half an hour to adjust the seat device for an individual, whereas now I can do it in 5 minutes. But it allowed me to stay outside, do something new, and I love that challenge. And it's not just used for golf. That's primarily what a lot of people use it for. And I tell you what, I being a double amputee, and I'm also above knee, and I'm old, so standing and swinging a golf club um, has you know pretty much that I'd end up on my face. So, with this device where it straps you in the seat, you have the confidence that, you can stand there with your prosthetics locked, because once you're got weight through them, you can lock them in the golf stance, but you're not going to fall over. So you can freely swing, and I tell you what, it's just being out and being a part of a whole different community. I think is probably one of the better benefits of it.
You were saying that it had other uses. What other uses would it have?
Well, um, keep in mind that this is a unit that stands you up. So we have had folks in the past stand up and dance with their wives at their wedding
There's a
for
great use case.
for the
Wow.
for the first time. The other side of things, for medical benefits of being able to stand somebody that can't stand it, um, um, periodically, you know, the health benefits that has. I'm not a doctor, so I don't have the specifics, but I know it does a world of good for those folks. Also, people stand up and shoot archery, shoot skeet. Um, you know, it's not just for golf, although that's kind of what I market it as. But I think too, what it's also doing, it's getting folks socially adjusted to a new normal.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. For those that don't know, maybe, or trying to visualize how it works, is there a way you can kind of give some basics of how it works?
Yeah, sure. So this device, it's a three-wheeled unit,
Okay.
and pretty much looks like a three-wheeled golf cart. And you sit in it, it has a pneumatic lift that raises and lowers. There's a control panel, with all the, bells and whistles, so to speak. It has lithium batteries. It has 48-volt individual motors that drive the front wheels. pretty much like a zero turn lawnmower concept. A lot of that technology is taken from that.
Okay.
Um, so with the upgrade in battery, obviously you have longer life. The upgrade from 24 to 48-volt motors, obviously more power, a little bit more speed, but the climbing ability of the VertaCat is just it's amazing. And it also, they've got some better ground clearance. We don't advocate going over 4-inch curbs consistently, but you can. I mean, there's some golf courses that have curbing pretty much to get up to tee boxes, and sometimes that's a challenge. But no, it's amazing. I mean, it pretty much drives like a zero turn mower with a joystick, and simple, easy. Unlike some other devices that are on the market, this one can pretty much be used by anybody from a 7, 8-year-old child, to an adult that has a quad disability and has very limited movement.
That's fantastic. And I have listed here as vertacat.com. Is that correct? I want to make sure I have the right URL.
You can go to that one, or there's ways to get these devices. Veterans, first responders, they have access to some foundations that they can pursue some funding for those units. That we're glad now that they're made in the US. We have everything here. We have not run into any issues with reliability, battery, or anything like that. It's just truly a remarkable piece of equipment that, unless you see this thing in person, it's really hard to grasp the concept of what it really is.
Yeah, for the people that are going to watch this video, because I'll do both. I'll have it on the, all
Okay.
the podcasts. I'll get some video that I'll overlay because this thing is, like you said, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And it enabled you. I want to make sure that we give you a little shout out here because you were on a team for the USA that you beat Europe in the Cairns Cup or Cairns Cup. I said it
Right.
wrong again. What was that like playing international golf? And you said you've only been playing 8 years and suddenly you're beating Europe.
Well, that tournament has been around. I think this might have been the second or third. It might have been the third go around of this. I mean, I don't know. I saw some stuff on social media about it, put in an application, and they called me. And so, again, here I am faced with an opportunity to represent my country. I'm saying yes every single time. I'm red, white, and blue all the way through. And so, again, not the international experience. It's incredible. I mean, we don't have quite the pageantry that you would with a Paralympics, on a worldwide stage. But we have our opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, and the Cairns Cup is really an event that's designed to introduce people to adaptive golf and what people with disabilities are capable of. During this week event, we have meetings, we have clinics for other adaptive golfers. And then, oh yeah, well, at the end, we throw in a, 3-day tournament just for fun. But, and everybody on both sides, it's an incredible experience for all of us. I mean, you meet friends that you'll have forever. I mean, I know if I wanted to go overseas and knock the ball around somewhere, and I called one of these guys up and said, "Hey, I'm coming over. Can I crash there for a few days?" It would be, no issue. But again, it was fun, but when the bagpipes go to sleep and you tee off on number one, it's go time, and it was a battle. It really was. It was a good time, but it was great for us to get that win.
Yeah. I mean, the butterflies are going to be happening on number one regardless, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, you controlled them and your team did too. What is it like though? Because you talk about coming together really as a group, and let's say people with limb loss. I know, from personal experience, you go out, we're pretty much the only ones like us. But now you are in a group of people more like you. What does that mean? And the camaraderie, and because you kind of hit on it. What does that mean to you as a person with limb loss?
Right. It's what I try to tell others when I meet them for the first time, after they're, injured, is that you're not the only one. And to be in a group of people with, similar disabilities, similar goals, similar attitudes, um, you know, similar accomplishments to a degree. I mean, it's like I said before, the adaptive sports community as a whole is very small. We have, you know, for example, guys can play wheelchair basketball until they're probably 70 some years old and nowadays. And it's kind of the same with golf. I mean, the longevity of the adaptive athlete is a lot greater than what we would say an able-bodied athlete. Not that us old guys don't have young guys breathing down our neck all the time, because we do, and they beat us frequently, as they should. But to be in a, especially with the Cairns Cup, to be in a community of international people with, you know, the like-mindedness to achieve the goals of what that cup really means, with the exposure of the sport and getting others involved, and then we play a tournament. It's really neat. It's a different experience, but all the same, it's an experience that you won't forget.
And the camaraderie you're talking about, you can just make a phone call and go to Europe. I wouldn't be able to do that. As you look forward, I know you got your son, I believe he's Matthew's 29, he's in the Navy. Am I correct? Maybe I'm wrong on the ages.
Yeah, he's a little older than that, but yep, he's in the Navy, and
And
we've
Casey and Jason.
yep,
Three
yep.
grandchildren still?
Yes, no,
Yeah.
four. We have a 3-year-old. Actually, his birthday is Thursday. So yeah,
Well, happy
tomorrow.
birthday to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading a little because I did a lot of research on you. You've done so much, and there's a lot to learn about you and what you've done. So some of that information was a little older, so I'm glad we're able to get that updated. But as you look forward now in your life, what are you looking forward to as you continue to move forward and do the great things that you're doing?
Well, I'm gonna say that the competition side of things is probably really done for me. There is a tournament here locally that, if the weather forecast is good, I'll probably, go to that one. And just, be with some of the people. There'll be some of my, Cairns Cup teammates will probably be there as well. But really what I'm focusing on now is, trying to get other adaptive golfers introduced to the VertaCat. Um, I've got a gentleman now that I introduced last week, and he is ready to go. He wants a VertaCat like yesterday. And so, I kind of look forward to, getting him in one of those, teaching him the game of golf. He's a golfer in the past, but it's a different game. And so, I kind of look forward to that. And I really like the amputee support groups and amputee coalition peer visitor program. If I can make somebody's life easier and their road to success smoother, that's kind of my focus right now.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Steve. I know that if people want to get a hold of you, there's definitely ways to do that. You're a peer visitor with the Amputee Coalition. There's one way there, or people can contact me through the We're Not Stumped podcast, and I'd be happy to give Steve's information out because he's so willing to help. So, but Steve, and VertaCat, as a matter of fact, what a great product. And, I really appreciate people doing things for the community that I've been a part of for a long time, obviously, and you have too. And it's just amazing to see products like this help people get out and enjoy life again. But I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. Again, this is a great opportunity that I like to take advantage of and get people exposed to not only adaptive sports, but the VertaCat. It's life changing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I have an ask for everyone that got to this point of the podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. The reason is simple. These stories need to be shared. It would help it to get out there to the people that really need to hear these stories.